The 2012 elections cost an estimated $6 billion, the most expensive total election spending in our nation's history. Fundraising is an ongoing effort for many elected officials, but at what cost? Hello everyone and welcome to Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Robert Trainum. We're here on location in the U.S. Capitol, and joining me is Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat from California. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you.
$6 billion, that's a lot of money.
It's a tremendous amount of money, and the scary thing is we don't know where a lot of that money even came from.
Why is that?
Well, the Supreme Court in a series of decisions has basically opened the floodgates not only to unlimited expenditures, but also has found that you don't have to be transparent about those expenditures. So now, unfortunately, do we have a huge amount of money coming in, unprecedented amount of money, but also a very substantial portion of that money is coming from anonymous sources. So we can't evaluate, the voters can't evaluate who is spending this money, what's their agenda, what are they trying to accomplish here, and that's very important information for voters to have.
Now, Congressman, my understanding is that you have recently introduced a piece of legislation or a constitutional amendment draft legislation that would do what?
Well, yes, it would basically allow the Congress to regulate not only contributions, but expenditures. And this goes back to a Watergate era reform, where after Watergate, the Congress passed laws that regulated what you can contribute to a candidate, as well as what you could expend on behalf of the candidate.
And it was transparent.
It was transparent. The Supreme Court, in a decision called Buckley versus Vallejo, about 30 years ago, decided that limits on contributions, what you give to a candidate, are constitutional. But because an independent expenditure couldn't possibly corrupt, that you couldn't place a limit on that. But the Supreme Court at the time said, if circumstances prove otherwise, we will revisit this decision. Well, we now have seen that circumstances have very much proved otherwise, that it makes little or no sense to limit what someone like Sheldon Adelson, for example, the Vegas casino magnate, can give. He can only give.
And for the benefit of our viewers at home, that supported mainly Republican candidates, correct?
Yes, Mitt Romney and prior to Romney, Newt Gingrich. It makes little sense to say, well, Sheldon Adelson or someone like that can only contribute $5,000 to the candidate, but can spend $20 million independently. It has the same capacity to corrupt. And what this constitutional amendment would say is that you can limit both the contributions directly to the candidate as well as the independent expenditures. And that would help curb some of the extraordinary excess and flood of spending. Now,
Congressman, obviously I'm no attorney, but I would assume that there would be a violation of free speech. At least that's what some opponents would say about the piece of legislation.
Well, you know, the Supreme Court back in Buckley said, we'll revisit this and left it open to regulate expenditures. Unfortunately, this Supreme Court, in Citizens United and other decisions, has decided they don't want to revisit that. In fact, they want to move in the opposite direction, allow even greater spending and allow a lot of that spending to be anonymous. So unfortunately, it will require a constitutional amendment. It shouldn't. Had the court, this court, accepted the invitation of the Buckley versus Vallejo court, one of its predecessors, this wouldn't be necessary. But unfortunately, unless we want to see these massive expenditures, a lot of them anonymous, we do have to amend the Constitution.
Congressman, how realistic do you think the Constitution can be amended to adapt this piece of legislation? As you know, it's very, very difficult to change the Constitution.
It is a very high hurdle, and you know, it's still my hope that the Supreme Court might revisit its thinking.
Do you think public opinion is on your side?
Oh, absolutely, public opinion is on my side, and you know, you ask any of the American people, and their countless surveys and polls have indicated how much the American people want to rein in this excessive spending. And there are some steps that we can take that are short of amending the Constitution. I think a very good first step is something called the Disclose Act that would require at least disclosure
more
of
transparency.
More transparency. And a lot of the major spenders in these elections have said that if they had to disclose, they wouldn't be making these contributions.
Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for this edition of Comcast Newsmakers. I'm Robert Trainum. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you next time.